All right, today is December 31st, 2025, New Year's Eve, and we're talking with Bud Clifford. Tell us, how many siblings did you have?
How many siblings?
Siblings, yeah.
I'm the last of 9.
Last of 9. Okay, so who was the oldest? Go from oldest to youngest.
My sister Grace, I think, was the oldest.
Uh-huh.
Then my brother Jim, and my sister Mary, then my sister Irene, then my sister Floss, and then the last one was my sister Alice.
Okay.
But there was, with my father's family, well, we had one more boy, Patrick, I believe was his name. He died at 2 years old.
Oh, okay.
And he was, I don't know what to say about him, but that was way, he might have been the second child.
Okay.
Anyway. Then I had a half sister, and from my father's previous marriage, and she was killed in an automobile accident before I was born. Then that's my father's family. I mean, our family. If you want to go way back, we can go back to my mother's family.
Okay.
And it goes back to the Lewis and Clark of the Clark expedition.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was the Clarks. No one was on the expedition. We come from his brother.
Okay.
So we come from the same family, same Clark family. And then my great-grandfather, Edward William Clark, all I know about him is he was at the Battle of Gettysburg. We have a paper that says that picture of him and from the 50-year reunion of the Battle of Gettysburg. Said he laid out for him how the Battle of Gettysburg was fought. And he was on Culp's Hill, and he was wounded, knocked down in the Willows and Rock Creek. He said that's the only thing that saved his life. And that article of the Washington, D.C. Star, he said that he had a rifle that he dug up, was he buried when he was there at the Civil War, was from the South. And then he had a stick that a walking stick that he cut out of the Rock Creek. And he said that the reason it was that those bushes in the Rock Creek is what saved his life. And he was bringing the stick and the rifle home to his home in Sacramento, California. And he owned a second-hand store downtown Sacramento. But
So do you know what his unit was?
what's that?
Do you know what his unit was? What unit he was in?
It didn't. I don't think it said what unit he
Okay.
was in. we've got the paperwork on him. Man. But anyways, he was Edward William Clark, and his son, I can't remember his name just offhand. He came to Sacramento. They all came to Sacramento, but they were my grandfather. I don't know what all he did here in Sacramento. He worked on the first Methodist church built here, but and my grandmother was, can't think of the name. She was Susan B. Anthony's cousin.
Oh, yeah.
So on the Clark side. My mother's family moved from Missouri. She was born in Missouri, Nevada, Missouri. And she was born two farms down from where the James boys, Jesse and Frank James, were. And when they left Missouri, they went to Miami, Oklahoma, and that's where the Dalton boys were. And my Aunt Ruth was born in Miami, Oklahoma, and then they came to Sacramento, California. I don't know what year it was, but they came here by train. It took 7 days to get here from Miami, Oklahoma to Sacramento.
Huh.
And when they left the train depot, my mother says they went by horse and buggy.
Wow.
To the house, you know. But my mother was born in 1895.
And she was born in Sacramento? No,
she was born in Nevada, Missouri.
Okay, yeah.
But years later, after my mother and father were divorced, and she married Dan Clark. Anyways, she showed me an article in the newspaper of this man that had died in this town in Oregon, and he had Jesse James pistols.
Oh, yeah.
So my mother told me that man was Jesse James, because that was the next town they were going to move to. But my mother had a job with the Golden Gate Laundry, and she wasn't about to leave that job to go to another town. And my uncle, who I was named after, Charlie Clark, was a Sacramento City fireman, and he wasn't about to give his job up either. So they never moved. They stayed in Sacramento. My father's family came here. My grandfather, my father was born on a horse ranch down in Franklin in 1884.
Franklin, California.
Yep. That's just part of Sacramento. But my grandfather and his brother came here from Wisconsin. And my son looked up on the computer. He was able to find my grandfather's name and his brother's name. They came here on the McMaster's wagon trains when they came. And McMaster opened a horse ranch down in Franklin. And my grandfather stayed and worked as a horse wrangler for him. And then his brother went back to Wisconsin. And my son found out through the computer that his name was Gerald Clifford. And he was the one that founded the Green Bay Packers football team.
Right.
So that's interesting. My father, though,
What was your father's name?
my father's name was James Edward Clifford.
Okay.
And he never talked about his father to me. One of the reasons probably was my father was kicked out of the house when he was 10 years old. So his father told him that he had other kids to take care of and he had to go make his own way. So my father had two brothers, Bill and Jerry Clifford. And but my father went downtown Sacramento and went to work on the docks, loading and unloading boats from San Francisco when he was 10 years old. And the owners of the biggest produce house in probably Northern California, Levi and Zentner, they came down to the docks one day and they were watching them, these load and unload boats. And they wanted to know who my father was. They wanted to know who the long-legged, blue-eyed Mexican was, you know. And he was always dark-skinned like me. But anyways, they hired him, and my father went to work for Levi and Zentner Produce Company as a dock walloper and worked all his life for them. And my father only went to the 2nd grade in school. But when he retired from Levi and Zentner, he was the buyer that did all the buying from the produce from the farmers all up and down the valley. He knew them all.
Oh, yeah.
And he kept the books for him. And it was amazing. He only went to the 2nd grade in school, and he was the bookkeeper, you know, and the wire for him. But
so he lived in Franklin till he was 10? He lived in Franklin, California when he was 10? Until he was 10, then he got kicked out? And were his brothers older or younger?
Younger.
Younger. Okay, so his old man just said, "Get out of here. I've got 2 other kids to take care of."
Yep.
Yeah. So he started probably about 1895 working for this produce company. He was 10 years old. 1894, 95. And he worked the rest of his life.
1894.
Yeah. And when did he retire, do you think?
When did he retire? I don't know what year he retired.
30s, 40s? Was it after you were born?
Yeah, I think it was after I was born.
Right. When you were born in 36?
Yeah.
Yep.
But
so your dad was old when he had you.
His brothers, well, when my father was 16 in 1900, my grandfather was working as a carpenter on a house downtown Sacramento, and he fell off the roof. He was working drunk, and he fell off the roof and broke his neck, killed him. So my dad had to go back and take care of his mother and raise his two brothers and his sister.
Mm.
And his brother Bill became a brick contractor, and he was the brick contractor on the Memorial Auditorium
Oh yeah.
in 1927 or something like that. And he did a lot of brickwork and a lot of work on the buildings downtown, you know.
Right.
And his other brother, Jerry, I never met him till my father's funeral. I never met Bill at all.
Mm-hmm.
But my Uncle Jerry, why, he lived in Woodland, and he told me stories about my father. But anyways, they had a bean processing company north of Woodland,
Mm-hmm.
and he lived in Woodland, and he was the superintendent of that bean processing factory, you know, ran that. And his wife, she worked at the hospital. She was a nurse. Her name was Dorothea, just like
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts. But he told me some stories about my father, but I don't recall them. But
How about your grandmother? Did you ever meet her?
yeah, I did.
You did.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I met her. She'd remarried. I don't remember the name of the guy she remarried, but she lived right across on Riverside Boulevard, right across from the old cemetery there.
Oh yeah.
And I remember my mother took me there to see her. And the only thing I can really remember is the squirrels in the yard. And I remember she was a gray-haired old lady, and I was just a little scooter, you know.
Mm-hmm. What was her name? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
Hmm. Was she the only grandparent you met?
Yes.
Yeah, because you didn't meet your mom's parents.
No.
No. Okay.
No, they were all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you were born when your parents were so old. I mean, your dad was what, 54? When he had you? Something like that?
My father was 52.
52?
And my mother was 41
Wow.
when I was born. But
What was your mom's maiden name? What was your mom's name?
Alma Clark.
Elma Clark. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
She had a sister, Jessie, and a sister, Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I had cousins. I've met several of my cousins, but most of them I never met.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they were so much older than me. You know,
Right.
so
Where your mom grew up? She came to Sacramento. Where did she live when she got here? Did she live downtown, or did she live in some other part of the city?
I think she lived downtown. After she married my father, they lived at 4509 48th Street.
Is that where you lived?
Yeah, that's where I lived with my mother and my sisters when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and father were divorced before I could remember.
Right.
And
how'd your parents meet?
at a dance.
Mm-hmm.
My mother at one time belonged to 4 dance clubs. She loved to dance.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her where she met my father. She says she met him at a dance hall.
Mm-hmm.
And she said when he walked in the door, every woman in the place wanted to dance with him. And I couldn't believe that, you know, because when I was, my father was 70 years old when he had his legs cut off.
Right.
And I couldn't imagine him dancing with anybody, you know.
Yeah.
My mother was married 3 times, and each time she married a man she met at the dance hall.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's funny. So she kept dancing. As soon as she
Yeah.
became single, she went out and started dancing.
She married my last stepfather, Domenico Bertagna, and they loved to dance. They used to put on dancing exhibitions at the old fairgrounds every year, you know. They did everything from the minuet up to modern day dances in costume, you know, and stuff. But Dominic was a really wonderful guy. He was really good. But my first stepfather, Dan Clark, he owned a farm on the corner of Morse and El Camino Avenue. And he was, he married my mother when I was about 10 years old and went to live on the farm with him. And he worked me like a farmhand and taught me to drive the tractor when I was 10 years old. And he kept telling me all these different things, you know, strange things, like he was going to put me in the ground, you know, he was going to bury me, and just remarks, you know, and I thought he was just running his mouth, you know. But then his son was an older, way older than me, and he come to stay with us on the farm. We had the farmhouse and we had a bunkhouse. I lived in a bunkhouse from the time I was 10 till I was 12 years old. And his son came to stayed with us for 6 months. He slept in the bunkhouse with me. We had 2 beds there. Anyways, when he left, he went to work up in Marysville on a hay baling rig, and he got in a fight with a Mexican guy and killed him with a hay rake. And that's when I realized that my stepfather wasn't just running his mouth. He meant to bury me. So I thought, when I realized that he wasn't just running his mouth, he was saying something he was going to do. He treated me poorly, but I figured I had to get out of there somehow. We had a rifle right in front of the front door, and he had me shoot the rifle every once in a while. And if I was going to kill him, I could have done it with a rifle, but that'd have been terrible for me. So I was out driving the tractor one day, and he come out and was out there, and on the back of the house we had a wood shed with a outside roof. Anyways, he got out, and I thought, well, if I run over him, it'll be an accident. So I tried to kill him by running over him. And he got out of the way when he realized what was happening and fell down and sprained his ankle. And then he got up and hobbled on the end of the woodshed And I drove the tractor over there and knocked the roof of the woodshed down on him, but he was in between the wild piles of wood. And I could hear him hollering and yelling and everything, so I just drove the tractor to the end of the property and turned the key off, and I walked across town to the old house. My sister Alice and her husband were living there. They were renting it from my mother.
Mm.
And I told them what happened, and they asked me what I was going to do, and I told them I didn't know what I was going to do. So they told my other sisters, and they just all decided that I would live there with Alice and Manuel. So I lived with Alice and Manuel and went back to the old school, Fruit Ridge School.
So how old were you when you did this?
12.
You were 12, okay.
12 years old. But when they transferred me from Fruit Ridge School to Arcade School, well, Arcade School, they had half grades. So they put me back a half a grade. So when I went back to Fruit Ridge School, I got put back another half a grade. So the guys that I grew up with were one grade ahead of me.
Oh.
So anyways, I lived there at 4509 48th Street from the time I was 12 till I was 17. I got kicked out of high school when I was 16. My brother-in-law's brother had his car stolen, and his boy was probably 10 or 12 years old at the time. And he told his father that it was me and my buddies that stole the car. So I was in my science class at McClatchy, and two policemen came into the classroom, and they talked to the teacher, and they come back and handcuffed me up and took me out and put me in the police car, took me off the school, took me to my mother's house. I didn't know what was going on, so I got to my mother's house, and they took the handcuffs off me and took me into the house. And my mother and stepfather were there, and my brother-in-law's brother was there. And when I got in the house, my mother said to me, "Buddy, where's the car?" So I looked at my mother and I pointed outside. I said, "The car's right there." I walked right by it when I came in the house. She said, "No, where's the car?" So I told her, "Well, the car's right there." You know, I could see the policemen shaking their head. They knew I didn't know what they were talking about. And so they figured out that I didn't steal the car. It didn't do nothing, you know. So my mother had to take me back to school the next day to see the counselor. And when we went in to see the counselor, my mother had to explain to the counselor that I didn't steal the car. I didn't know anything about it, anything. So the counselor, Mrs. Ford, told my mother that the C.K. McClatchy had a rule that if the police took you off the campus, you were automatically expelled. But she said in my case, they would allow me to quit. But either way, I was gone.
Right.
So I just told my mother, I said, it's better if I quit than be expelled, because that'd be on my record. So my mother signed the paperwork for me to quit school. So I was out of high school. So
how old were you when this happened? 16?
I was 16.
Okay. So you're like 9th grade, 10th grade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in the 10th grade. But anyways, I'd been working for CNS Produce part-time, pitching watermelons. So I went to the owner of the produce company, Harold Calloway, and he says, well, now you're a full-time employee. So I went to work for him full-time.
So how did you get that job? I mean, to start with, did your dad help you out, get you that job?
No, there were two other kids in the neighborhood that worked part-time for him when they got loaded up, you know, stuff. So, but what I didn't tell you was the summer I was 15, I graduated from 8th grade, went over to the 9th grade. Why? That summer, these friends of ours, the Rasmussens, owned the Nugget Cafe at Colfax, and Mrs. Rasmussen come down, talked to my mother, took me downtown to the Federal Building, and we got my Social Security card. So she took me up there to work with her son. Son was Eddie Rasmussen. He was 17. He was 2 years older than me. And she had got us jobs. So we worked stacking green lumber off the mill at Iowa Hill all this summer. So I already had my Social Security card.
Where's Iowa Hill?
Iowa Hill is east of Colfax,
Okay.
and it's a big lumber yard. It was a big lumber yard then, but you had to drive across this bridge, this old-fashioned bridge, and it had a limited weight limit on it. So there were two truck drivers that hauled the lumber out of the mill to Colfax, and then they had a lumber yard there. It was right across the street from the Nugget Cafe, with the Rasmussen's own. So the lumber had to be restacked for bigger loads, and that's what Eddie and I did. And there were two other crews that did it too. They were men crews, but we were just kids, really. But the lumber yard was right across the street from the Nugget Cafe, which they owned. And they had a big screened-in porch on the back of the Nugget Cafe. That's where Eddie and I slept. We had cots back there. And when they got up in the morning and started rattling pots and pans in the cafe, why, we got up and had breakfast and would just go across the street to go to work, you know.
Right.
So when there wasn't anything for us to do, well, we went across, and there were two truck drivers. They hauled the lumber from Iowa Hill down to Colfax, and they used these old army trucks, and we used to ride with them, and because the load was really too heavy to be going over that bridge. But I rode with a guy named Bud, and Bud had his right hand blown off in World War II. He had a hook with a cup on it that he could put on the gears and shift the gears, you know. And whenever I rode with him and we were loaded with lumber and coming back, he stopped and made me get out and walk across the bridge to the other side.
Oh, okay.
He was afraid the bridge might collapse with me.
Yeah.
You know. But anyways,
Well, that was nice of him. He didn't care if he went,
Oh,
but he
yeah.
cared about you.
I worked the whole summer there with Eddie stacking lumber. We used to go in the afternoon. He'd take his mother's car and we'd drive down to the Bear River and swim. But I worked the whole summer, and when it was time for me to go back to school, why, Bud was taking a big load. He was driving a big truck then and taking a big load down to Sacramento So he drove me down to the Capital Freight Lines on Stockton Boulevard, and then I could just walk home from there.
Hmm.
So I was all set when I went to work for CNS Produce.
Okay, hold on a second.